This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch for Thursday, May 14th. I'm George Thomas. There are new warnings of a long-term recession. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says the United States may face a prolonged economic downturn and is urging Congress and the White House to act. His comments sent stocks tumbling Wednesday, this as states push to reopen and bring back their economies. CBN's Jenna Browder has that story from Washington.
Americans are feeling the pinch and pushing back against lockdown measures. In Wisconsin, the state Supreme Court has struck down the governor's stay-at-home order, ruling his administration overstepped its authority.
We need it badly, just so that we can get at least people back up and running.
And around the country, a growing number of people and local officials say they won't follow shutdown mandates, like in Madison County, Illinois.
Nothing worse than when you own a business to work a lot more hours and make a lot less money or no money at all.
Officials there voting to reopen Wednesday, despite the governor's stay-at-home order. And President Trump visiting Pennsylvania today, another state where many people are upset with the governor's shutdown rules. All of this coming as economic pain mounts. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warning Wednesday of a possible extended recession.
The path ahead is both highly uncertain and subject to significant downside risks.
Powell making clear his concern a recession may last long enough to cause extensive damage to the economy, making a recovery weaker and slower.
A prolonged recession and weak recovery could also discourage business investment and expansion, further limiting the resurgence of jobs.
His comments led to a sharp sell-off in stocks.
I think there's a lot of concern that a lot of people won't necessarily go back to their old jobs.
At the same time, even as millions of Americans are out of work, many face another problem: sharply rising prices at the grocery store, the biggest in decades, with fewer people eating out, leading to a bigger jump in buying at the store at a time when many can't afford it.
If something's gone up $1, I'll either find an alternative or honestly not purchase it.
As states reopen, there's concern about another wave of coronavirus cases. And at the same time, people are also worried about the economic pain caused by the lockdowns. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thank you, Jenna. Michigan police are bracing for a third day of protests at the state capitol. This will be the latest demonstration in an effort to protest the governor's stay-at-home orders. Governor Gretchen Whitmer has extended the order until May 28th. Some cities in Michigan have been hit very hard by the pandemic, but residents in rural areas of the state say they shouldn't be subject to orders and are protesting. Whitmer pushed back, saying the protests make it much more precarious for the state to reopen more of its economy. Our Mark Martin spoke with radio host and commentator Todd Starnes about what's been happening in Michigan. He's also saying there's disturbing examples of overreach as many Americans are concerned about their constitutional rights being trampled. Take a look.
Yeah, look, Michigan really is this hotbed. Of course, in the state of Michigan, thanks to the Democrat governor there, you can't even plant a crop of butter beans in your backyard. You can't go out on a motorboat to go fishing. It's just outrageous, the curtailment of civil liberties in the state of Michigan. And as a result, a lot of people have been protesting, and they've been showing up at the state capitol. Now, a couple of weeks ago, there was a huge dust up because many people that were part of a militia group showed up with weapons, and they stormed the Capitol building. And they plan to show up again on Thursday of this week. We're not quite sure what that protest looks like. But again, I want to caution folks, there's no need to do that. We're not talking about a revolution here. We're talking about a state government that is actually working through the process legislatively to restore rights there. So let's let the process work before you storm the Capitol building with the firearms. That being said, over in California, for example, the lockdown is going to be extended by 3 months in Los Angeles County. And the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, actually got on television. He was on CNN with Anderson Cooper, and he said, well, the good news is we're going to open up the beaches, but you can only do certain things on the beaches. So you can sunbathe, but you can only sunbathe in the wet sand. You can't sunbathe in the dry sand. Who's going to sunbathe on the wet sand? I mean, this is like a beach Nazi in real time here.
Wow. Well, tell us what happened at a diner in Fresno on Mother's Day.
Yeah, so this is it's a very popular waffle joint. It's not the Waffle House. It's called the Waffle Shop. And the owner there, just a good American citizen, wants to live the American dream. And, they said, you know what, we got to reopen for business. If we don't, we're not going to have a business to open down the road. So they reopened over the Mother's Day weekend, and they had a huge crowd. And the code enforcement officers showed up. And the citizens that were standing in line waiting to eat their waffles actually formed a human blockade. They wouldn't let the code enforcement officers into the waffle shop. It was amazing. It was like, Bunker Hill with waffles. And so the code enforcement officers then called the police. The police show up, and the video, which is just unbelievable, the police officer forces his way through the crowd, literally shoving people aside. He ended up taking a man and his wife, they were elderly couple, into custody. They were later released, but they still may face charges for obstructing a police officer. This is a troubling thing that this kind of pushback is happening. But the good news here, American citizens engaging in their constitutional rights to go out on Mother's Day and eat a waffle.
There's also another disturbing case, Todd, of overreach out of Illinois about, I guess, the shutting down of parks. What's that about?
So there is a small community, a village there, and they have public parks, and they got very concerned because the boys and girls were playing on the monkey bars and the merry-go-round, and they said, well, we can't have that. This is a global pandemic. So they shut down the parks, and then they put up this bright orange fencing around the parks to prevent boys and girls from getting inside. Well, they also had a skate park there, very popular. And the skate park, by the way, was built by volunteer efforts there in the community. And the skateboarders were told they could not skateboard. Of course, the young people did not pay attention, and they continued to skate. And when they showed up one day, they discovered the entire skate park had been completely filled with wood chips. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. Well, what should citizens who are concerned about overreach and constitutional rights do?
Well, I think citizens have an obligation to stand up and fight for their rights, and they have to do it within the confines of the law. They have to get out there, march in the streets, go to the city council meetings. They have to vote. Elections have consequences. Just ask the sunbathers and paddleboarders in California. So you've got to engage in the process, in the system. Our voices have to be heard here. And if not, then, we get what we deserve here, folks. I mean, again, it's not the government taking away our rights. It's the American people allowing their rights to be taken away. And that's not good.
Okay, Todd Starnes, thanks again for bringing us these stories. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The presiding judge in Michael Flink's criminal case has appointed a retired judge to evaluate whether the former national security advisor should be held in criminal contempt. The move signals the judge could have some reservations about the Department of Justice's efforts to dismiss that case. As you know, Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to FBI about his contacts with Russia, but now he says he is innocent. Overseas, a strong typhoon has hit eastern Philippines. Authorities have evacuated tens of thousands of people while trying to avoid overcrowding shelters that could increase the spread of the coronavirus. The storm sustained 93-mile-per-hour winds and gusts up to 115 miles per hour. The typhoon came as the country is trying to fight the virus outbreaks. There have been more than 11,000 infections and 772 deaths in that country. Overcrowding in emergency shelters is very common in the Philippines. A Christian Coalition group will host a special online prayer vigil for kidnapped Christian teen Leah Sharibu. Sharibu has been in Boko Haram captivity in Nigeria for 2 years, and today is her 17th birthday. The International Committee on Nigeria has organized the online prayer event and is praying for her safe release for her family and also the defeat of terrorism in Nigeria. You can learn more about the event by visiting cbnnews.com. Coming up, choosing our next president by mail or from your smartphone. Mail-in voting could be an option post-COVID-19, but what are the ramifications? We hear one expert who says Democrats are trying to change the way we vote.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. You're watching the CBN News Channel. Choosing the U.S. president by mail or voting from your smartphone. The push is on to make it much easier for you to cast your ballot. But what are the ramifications? Appearing on this week's episode of The Global Lane, Eric Eggers, research director at the Government Accountability Institute, says Democrats are using the COVID-19 crisis to change America's way of voting.
It's very interesting how the Democrats have attempted to use this global pandemic and unprecedented crisis in our country's history as an opportunity to reshape our election laws. And I think all you need to do is look at that first effort pushed by Democrats. Luckily, it wasn't codified into the final law, but Democrats absolutely attempted to not only mandate national all-mail balloting, but also legalize the collection of what we call ballot harvesting, which is the third-party solicitation and collection of ballots. So if they had gotten their way, it would have been major changes to the way America conducts elections. But even though it hasn't been made national law yet, many states, as you just noted, are doing it, starting with California.
And a big part of mail-in balloting is also, as you mentioned, third-party delivery. Tell us about that and why we should be concerned.
So ballot harvesting is this kind of, it's been in the shadows for a long time in American elections. But California, ahead of 2018, became the first state to legalize the practice by which somebody can come to your door and help you fill out a ballot request form. And then they can also then come to your door and then collect the ballot after you've received it and filled it out. And then they promise to deliver it to a polling location or drop-off center. It's interesting because while California has said the practice is legal, many states actually say it's illegal. You may remember the election in 2018 in which a U.S. House race was not certified because a Republican candidate was found to have used that same practice. In North Carolina, it's illegal. In California, it's illegal. But I think the main concern, right, is the idea that, you wouldn't trust someone. You wouldn't just hand your wallet and say, hey, take this to the bank for me. But Democrats are now asking people to trust their ballots to these political operatives.
Another push is to eventually allow people to cast their ballots right from their smartphones. Now, that seems reasonable, convenient. So, Eric, what's the risk to election integrity with that voting method?
Well, it just depends on how effective the states have been at developing technology. One of the things I realized in the research for the book is that America remains a third world country when it comes to election technologies. Some states, like West Virginia, have successfully used aspects of blockchain technology to do pilot programs for mobile voting, specifically for members of the military from overseas. But I'd be very surprised to see states be able to ramp up the technology so quickly. I mean, we're a country that struggles to even just use regular ballot counting machines. Many of those machines are decades old. So to fundamentally shift the way that we might be able to do cell phone voting, hey, I support anything as long as you can do the technology and do it safely. But then, who's to say that the person that owns the phone is the person casting the ballot?
There you go. And all of us remember those hanging chads, don't we? Well, 2 summers ago at the DEF CON Hackathon conference, remember an 11-year-old boy managed to change election results on an imitation Florida state voting website. That's an 11-year-old boy did that in 10 minutes. So how easy is it to alter election results electronically? What do we need to do to secure electronic votes?
That's a great question. I think it's one of the reasons why so many people are pushing for paper ballots, right? I mean, while the election databases may be vulnerable to hacking, the only safeguard I think you have against that is to make sure you have a verified paper ballot as a record, because as far as I know, 11-year-olds or other foreign actors can't manipulate those yet.
Some states now are doing away with voter ID laws. Right here in Virginia, Governor Ralph Northam recently signed legislation repealing the requirement that voters actually show an ID before casting their ballots. And I know the argument has always been we need to make it easier for people to vote. Voter ID laws disenfranchise people who don't have IDs. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there remains this tension between voter accessibility and voter security. But the reality is this. There's no evidence that requiring voter ID has infringed or diminished the productivity of minority voters. In fact, many states, including Georgia, saw increases in minority voting after implementing voter ID. And the sad fact is that voter ID is one of the few safeguards that we have. I think it's far from sufficient, but it's one of the few mechanisms we have to try to ensure that the person that's casting the ballot is actually the legal voter on the voter rolls. I mean, if you wanted to get on an airplane or purchase an alcoholic beverage or even, ironically, attend the last Democratic National Convention, you would have had to show a driver's license. So I find it a bit ironic that many Democrats don't feel like you should have to show an ID in order to cast the ballot, the most sacred act in American democracy.
You can watch more of the Global Lane tonight at 9:30 Eastern right here on the CBN News Channel. Still ahead, see how California pastors are rallying together to get the doors of the church back open. Stay with us.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. A federal judge has ruled California Governor Newsom can ban church gatherings to protect public health. A growing number of pastors, however, say Newsom has gone too far and needs to allow churches to reopen. Heather Sells has the story.
On Sunday, May 3rd, Pastor Sam Rodriguez stood in the parking lot of his Sacramento church, preaching to his congregation in their cars. He had gone online earlier in the week, calling on church members to show up.
It may be selfish, whatever. I want to see you. I miss you.
Rodriguez, one of the president's closest faith advisors, has a plan to reopen his church in early June at 1/3 capacity.
We're going to maintain our social distancing. We're going to do everything right.
Rodriguez is one of hundreds of California pastors making plans to get back to church. Pastor Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel in Chino Hills is organizing a movement to open on May 31st, Pentecost Sunday. But that thinking doesn't mesh with Governor Newsom's, who currently has delayed opening of churches until the third wave of his plan, which is likely months from now. Pastor Matt Brown, founder of Sandals Church, is directly appealing to Newsom.
What I want from Governor Newsom is I want him to sit down with me, and I want him to look over our plan at Sandals Church. And we believe the church can meet together safely.
Brown is worried about the extended physical separation. Sandals leaders have called 20,000 attenders and found many struggling.
We have all kinds of emotional issues that are going on in our church. We have marital issues in our church. We're seeing a spike in depression and suicides and drug addiction.
Dr. John Jackson, the president of a Christian college near Sacramento, says churches must be allowed their First Amendment rights.
If it continues for months and months, I find it very inappropriate that I can go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread, be with all kinds of other people. I can go to the hardware store and buy supplies for my home maintenance, but I cannot go to a church.
But a federal judge disagrees. During a church lawsuit, he said that shoppers going to businesses for specific items is different from churchgoers communing together. Southern Baptist leader Russell Moore warns churches should not be treated differently.
The issue has to be safety. And so I think there are some areas where churches are treated in a different category that sees churches as being somehow less essential than other means of gathering. And I think that's a real mistake.
President Trump recently said he wants churches to reopen.
We have to get our people back to churches, and we're going to start doing it soon.
In this new COVID world, churches and government leaders must figure out how to protect First Amendment rights while balancing spiritual and mental health needs with physical safety. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Christian leaders and artists from across the nation are joining together to support small churches in low-income areas avoid closure as a result of the financial fallout from the pandemic. Evangelist Nick Hall and his Pulse organization will host an online simulcast called Churches Helping Churches on May 15th. The initiative, led by the Atlanta-based campaign, has created a coronavirus at-risk church relief fund that will provide $3,000 grants to churches facing closure because of the drastic decreases in giving. Performing artists and special guests include Lecrae, Lauren Daigle, Toby Mac, For King and Country, Christian Kane, Benjamin Watson, and many more. Hall says, quote, there are churches in the urban and immigrant communities that are at risk of not making it. We are rallying together to raise money and awareness to help our brothers and sisters in Christ. Coming up is a special tribute to honor Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias. Metro Music Therapy takes on his favorite song, How Great Thou Art, and his daughter shares a special message from the heart to her dad.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
The daughter of world-renowned apologist Ravi Zacharias has paid tribute to her father by sharing a video of a stunning rendition of How Great Thou Art. Ravi Zacharias received a dire prognosis after a short battle with an aggressive and rare form of cancer in his spine. Metro Music Therapy sent a viral performance to Zacharias last week while he was receiving medical care in Houston. His daughter, Naomi, said she was with her father when he received the uplifting video.
I got to sit next to my dad and push play and see the look on his face as he heard them using their beautiful voices to sing for him. Singing for him and singing one of his favorite songs of all time. Words that he knows and has clung to for years, and words that he knows and clings to even today. So I want to thank you guys.
Naomi wanted to share the performance to serve as a blessing to others. Take a listen, folks.
Oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displays. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou.
Please continue to pray for Ravi Zacharias and his family during this time. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. We hope you will join us again next time. From all of us here from the Christian Broadcasting Network, have a great day. Goodbye and God bless.